My whole life is a fucking movie and it came true. My whole life is a fucking movie and it came true. So death on this thing, his whole car got shot up. You didn't get your ass on stage, your bum ass didn't graduate. Your bum ass to graduate.
Shorty Young Jones was the best, yeah he did Anna. At 17, yeah he gon' do Anna. Coke, Molly, meth, and heroin. This my dead cousin pants, now your mama. Welcome to the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, you know, get the channel to 70 subscribers in this bit, you know what I'm saying? So like, you know, this is a true story of Anna heads belong together, the dark truth of it. You know, I was being posted this shit like probably like I would say 10 days ago, but you know, I ain't want to even do this fucking music, not the music video, but this video period, you know. But basically, like, this story, it goes back to 2023, and like at the time, you know, me and this dude was friends and shit. We had like a fallout or some shit like that, you know. It was like we had beef and shit. So basically, the day all this shit started, it was like I was in my crib, we was chilling and shit. And that's when he was like, oh, where the weed at? Where the weed at? Shit, where the weed at? I said, I don't know. Nigga put the gun in my face. And was like, oh, you gonna die? Fuck your dead cousin pants. All types of shit. So right then and there, I was like, you gonna get on coke, molly, meth, heroin. No, real shit. Spoke that shit on him and shit like that. And I was like, you gonna get on Anna and all this shit. 17 years old. So that's when my auntie Pam, she knocked on the door and she was like, what the fuck going on and shit. So she ended up calling the police and shit like that. So that's when all of a sudden the police head came and shit. And they was like, what's going on? They kicked dude out the crib and shit. Kicked him out my crib and shit. And it's like, oh, well, you want to press charges and shit? I was like, nah, I'm good. Just get the fuck, get his ass out my fucking crib. So that's when after that, you know, I would say nigga had like a strap in the shoe and shit like that. I ain't say shit. I ain't say a goddamn thing. Like, nah, get the fuck, get this stank ass nigga out my fucking crib. So after that, you know, I ended up leaving and shit. I went somewhere and shit. I was saying house get breaking into. My auntie Pam ended up calling the police and shit. So again, you feel what I'm saying? I was gone. I was probably somewhere in Gainesville or somewhere around this time. But basically, like, what ended up happening was, we went back, I would say fast forward from that whole situation to like, I would say 2 weeks after that, dude came to my job and shit. And that's when after that, like making threats, all types of shit. So, me being me, I'm trying to find my fucking knife so I can stab his fucking eyes out and shit. When I was like working and shit, Dollar General, so I was trying to kill his ass in the fucking store and shit. So right after that, nigga just left. Nigga disappeared after that. So that's when soon when that fucking happened, pulled my knife out, snap. Like, it was a sharp ass knife too, like it just fucking snapped. Soon when I pulled that shit out, I was like, what the fuck? So it was like plenty of times, you know, God didn't want me to crash out. It was plenty of times that I wanted to crash out, but God stopped me from crashing out. So I would say, I guess the last time he had came in the store, he went in and shit, harassing the nigga and shit like that. Came in the store doing all types of shit. You know what I'm saying? So he ended up leaving and shit. Right after that, went home and shit. That's why I met up with this dude. He was like friends with my grandma and shit like that. He just got out of jail and shit. And I told him about the situation and shit. I was like, nah, dude, weird as fuck. So he was like, you know, this what you can do. And he was like, you can put some roots on his ass to get his ass up out of here and shit. So we go to the crib. He showed me what to do and shit. And I was staying at 5 Points liquor store around this time. Yeah, I was staying at 5 Points liquor store around this time. So we ended up doing the ritual and shit like that. We did what we did, you know, put my energy inside the thing I was doing and shit. So we go to the gas station. We burned the paper. We burned the fucking paper that had something to do with the ritual. We burned it. And he was like, you know, everything done and shit like that. You know, you don't gotta worry about that nigga no more. Everything fucking done. You know what I'm saying? So right after that, it got worse. In my job, chilling and shit. And that's when we pull up again. You know what I'm saying? This is another time I was about to crash the fuck out. This around like late September and shit, about to fucking crash out and shit like that. God still didn't let me crash out. So right after that, he ended up leaving and shit. And that's when went back home. That's a true story. Went back home, and that's when I did the same ritual. I did it the second time and recorded myself. And that's when I was speaking death and putting energy into the ritual that I was doing. And I was like, oh, he gonna drop, he gonna die. I was saying a lot of shit. I was like, he gonna get on coke, he gonna get on Molly, he gonna get skinny. I said all that shit in the ritual and shit, and I recorded myself. So when I recorded myself and I look back at the ritual and shit that I had did and shit, it was like a deep voice saying it with me like death, 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 death. So I look back, I was like, oh shit. So probably like, I was, okay, yeah, the video cut out. So right after that, you feel what I'm saying, when I did the ritual on camera and shit, the second time and shit, this is around October, I would say late October when I did this shit. The second time I would say. So soon when I did that shit, recorded myself, something was like that, like saying it with me. And it was like a deep demonic ass voice saying it with me and shit like that. So look back at the video, I would say a couple days later, I would say, I had get word and shit. Nigga was like, yo, nigga car got shot up 50 times and shit. So I was like, what the fuck? It came true. Like in my head, I was like, damn, it came true and shit like that. Like, damn, the ritual worked that fast and shit. But then dude was like, oh, but dude didn't die. He didn't die. So right after that, you know what I'm saying? But 3 days straight, I ain't making this shit up. The first day, you know, God warned me. He told me, he was like, Trap, leave. He was like, leave. I felt it in the spirit. Like, you know, it's not really hearing the voice, but like you just feel it. You know, it's an intuition thing and shit. So right after that, you feel me? I left, go to Winstone's apartments. And shit. I'm chilling out with the guys and shit like that, smoking and shit like that. I get back. My uncle Lonnie Charles in 15, he's like, oh, dude came in the car. He came in the red car. And shit like that. He was sitting out on the grass and shit and beeping the horn, like waiting for you and shit. Waiting for you. So that's when after that, I came, like when I did come back, when he was telling me that shit, I was like, oh damn, huh. You know. But I knew like around this time death was coming for me and shit like that. So second day, they're like that morning, all of a sudden God was like, leave. Get the fuck out of it. Get out. Leave. I go back to Winstone's the second day. Came back 5 hours later. Lonnie Charles like, oh man, he was like, dude came back in the red car, he was beating the horn and shit. I would say the third day, around the third day, it had to be like around like, I would say like about to hit like Halloween and shit. So on Halloween night, I guess dude pulls up and shit, cause I already left that morning on the third day I left. So Halloween night, he had came and shit with a whole bunch of niggas wearing all black and shit. Trying to knock on my door and shit, trying to basically kill me and shit. That's a true story. So that's when after that, you know, I wasn't there, so I came back that morning. And that's when my Lonnie Charles was like, hey bro, like dude had came and shit. And that's when you were just sitting outside, came out the car with a whole bunch of niggas wearing all black and shit, just banging on your door and shit, beeping the horn and shit, like going crazy on some shit. So I guess, yeah, the fourth day, the fourth day. So the fourth day had came and shit. That's when all of a sudden I had left something. It was like, leave, get on the bike, hurry up and leave. So go to Winstone's and shit. Came back, my grandma was like, yeah, my grandma Valerie, she was like, yeah, I seen dude pull up and shit like that, cause she stayed out in the neighborhood around this time. She was dating a nigga named Frog around this time. So that's when she was like, yeah, I seen him, and that's when I called the police, and he ended up getting arrested and shit. And there was bullet holes in the car and shit. Basically what I just told y'all about getting it. Basically the car getting shot up 50 times and shit, the nigga didn't die. So after that, I would say, when that shit happened, nigga disappeared and shit. Nigga disappeared. I ain't never seen that nigga again. Went on dude Instagram page, he was skinny. Cause when he did come to my job and shit, I would say like around that third time, he was skinny as hell. When I finally seen him again, he was skinny as hell. Skinny. So, you know, that shit was wild. You know, when I look back and shit, I just, that shit was wild as fuck, you know. So I would say probably like 2 to 3 years later, I would say I get word, a girl was like, yeah, his mama had passed away and shit. Like, cause I remember when I did the ritual and shit, I was like, his whole bloodline was gonna fall and shit. I did like a lot of shit. So basically, like, that's what like really happened and shit. It was like a lot of shit going on. It was like a lot of fucking shit going on. Like, so that's the dark truth of Anna Heads belong together, you know. Especially because I remember like when dude put the gun in my fucking face and shit. Talking about you gonna die, fuck your dead cousin. I spoke all that shit on, especially in the ritual. I was like, you gonna die, you gonna get on coke, you gonna get on Molly, you gonna get on Anna, you gonna get on meth at 17. And you know, it's a true story. True story, like, you know. But like, you know, when I say in my song, like, my whole life it's a fucking movie and it came true. My whole life it's a fucking movie and it came true. So like when I like in that verse, I was basically saying like, damn, like the ritual had worked, basically. Like, you know, I didn't really say like the ritual, but I was saying my whole life it's a fucking movie and it came true. Like that shit that had happened to me and shit, that shit was like some fucking movie shit when that shit happened. I was like, what the fuck? So, you know, especially when I found out word when mama had passed away and shit, you know. But it was just like, you know, I took that shit to fucking heart. You know, you dissed my dad cousin pants and shit, you know. I took that shit to heart. So right then, I spoke death on his ass. I spoke curses on his ass and shit. And, you know, that's what had happened, you know. Like, that's a true story. You funds in, especially when I was like, you didn't get your attestation. Bum ass and graduate. Your whole parking side up. You didn't get your attestation. Bum ass and graduate. So, every verse I had spit on Anna Heads Belong Together, that shit is a true fucking story, not made up. You know, a lot of niggas was like, oh, you capping and shit, you capping and all this bullshit. Like, nah, I wasn't capping, you know. Excuse my friends, you know, God working on me, but, you know, like, when I look back, I still can't believe, like, I can go back to change a lot of shit, you know. I would have never did that. I should have, like, you know, gave that shit up to God. Should have let him handle that shit, you know. But now, when I get older, now as I get older and shit, you know, I done mature from a lot of shit, you know. But, yeah, like, you know, that's a true story, you know what I'm saying? That's a wild-ass story. Wild-ass story. And I would say right after the time when I did the ritual and shit, it was like probably like a month when all that shit had happened with the whole him coming to my crib and all this bullshit, beeping the horn and shit. I would say like a month later, that's when I was in the crib, came home from work. That's when my Uncle Zap, he was on the couch and shit. I had a couch over here and I had a bed right here. So that's what after. Okay, I'm back. So it was a couch over here, bed right here. So that night I had this fellas. It was just like weird, like, you know, something did kind of feel off. It did kind of feel off. So he on the couch, he go to sleep. I get in my bed, I lay down. Soon when I close my eyes, and when I say I get comfortable and shit, and that's when right after that, I'm gone. I'm in a fucking dark place, you know, a very dark place. I'm screaming in this place. I'm crying in this place. I'm telling God, forgive me for doing voodoo. Forgive me for, it was a lot of shit. Lust. It was a lot of shit. I was repenting in that place. And I was thinking about 2 years ago when the pastor was like, oh, he was pointing at the casket and he was like, you know, you don't want to die in your sins. You don't want to die in your sins. And he was telling everybody this. So I was thinking about that in hell, you know. Right after that, I had a it's like I can't really explain. It's like I had a vision, like in my head or something. It's like I seen it. And it's like everybody around my casket, everybody just looking. Everybody like, oh, Justin. And I'm thinking what they're saying and shit like, oh, Justin in heaven and all this BS. Oh, he in heaven. The whole time I'm in hell, burning. Right after that, probably like I went to sleep at 11, woke up at 8. That's when I woke up at 8 in the morning. And it felt like I just went to sleep, went to the place, and it felt like I was there for 5 minutes. It felt like I was there for 5 minutes, but at the same time, I had eternity. Wake up, I'm shaking. I'm hot, my body hot. Zap, his ass cooking fucking waffles and shit. And that's when you know, my vision finally cleared up and shit. And he was like, what's wrong? He was like, I've been seeing you shaking and shit like that. You been shaking in your sleep. So I was like, man, God took me to hell, man. God took me to hell. You know, I thought I was like gonna never make it out. I was crying my eyes out. And that's when he was like, I told you about doing that voodoo. I told you about doing that voodoo. I told you. And you know, that's like, you know, when I think back at the whole shit, you know, God had sent me to hell for doing that voodoo and shit like that. And it was a lot of things, you know, because I would ask, like, God, even like years before this, like when I was a kid, I'm like, you know, God, like, you know, they say it's a hell. I just ask that you show me it, you know. I want to know if it's true. And I think when it came up to that point around that time, that's when he showed me. So it was like a lot of shit, like a build up and shit. And I couldn't believe it. When God showed me that, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But at the same time, I still ran from it. You know, still doing what I was doing, didn't care, you know, did what I did, you know. But yeah, that's a story of Anna Hits Blown Together, the dark truth of Anna Hits Blown Together. True story, you know what I'm saying? Like, subscribe, get the views up, man. Yeah, that's it. The story of Anna Hits Blown Together is the story of why God sent me to hell.